I've already gotten a chance to meet a few of you and try to pull out of you a little bit of why did you come today. I got everything from very specific things people had thought to I don't really know why I came today. Both are okay. That was a very nice introduction. Thank you for that. I will go through a little bit more of my background as I run through the presentation. Before I jump in, though, I want to introduce two special guests that I have here today, and that is my mom and my dad, Tom and Esther LeClaire. You know, we all have people who support our careers, and we owe a lot to. And for me, a lot of that comes from the two of them. And I'll give you a couple little fast facts. They're both graduates of Oswego State University and teachers. And has anybody heard of the Lafayette Apple Festival? Oh, good showing of hands. Good. So my mom and her friend started the Lafayette Apple Festival 44 years ago, and it has blossomed into a spectacular event. It's the biggest thing that happens in Lafayette, New York. I thought there was a nice introduction on what I've done. If you're not familiar with Cisco, Cisco makes a lot of technology products. And when you think about the company, it's about a $50 billion company. There's about 70,000 employees globally. And the employees break into about three categories. There's about a third of the company is engineers. And they build really phenomenal products. A third of the company is sales and marketing and our channels, how we go to market. And about a third of the company is the support infrastructure. It's HR, it's legal, it's finance, it's operations, it's manufacturing, it's all the other functions that you need outside of the engineering and the sales piece. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. I was excited when I was asked to participate in this program. I've not had the opportunity yet to meet Moose Akram, but the fact that he is allowing each of you to almost put yourself in a time capsule and flash forward 25 years from now and take a look at what some of the things are that you could do is just a phenomenal opportunity. I don't remember having this opportunity when I was at Syracuse. And as I was preparing for this, I was asking some people that I work with if they'd ever heard of a program like this, and they had not. So you should be very proud of what you have here. And certainly, I think there's another series coming up in the spring. Certainly take full advantage of that. With the time we have today, I wanted to break it into a couple different parts. I'll share a little bit about, I call it lessons, but it's really I wish I would have known. Or had I known then what I know now. I'll try to share a couple things there with you. I'll walk you through my career journey, mostly so that it'll give you an opportunity to think about questions. So I think probably the funnest part of this session can be the Ask Me Anything session. And Karen, my Vanna, is going to be handing out index cards. So what I would like you to do is take an index card, and while I'm going through the first half of the presentation, if a question pops into your head, you don't have to put your name on this, right? This is the cool part. You don't have to worry about is it a good question. Just write your question down on a piece of paper. Try to be as legible as you can. And the last part of the session, what I'll try to do, hopefully I can get through all of them, but I'm going to try to go through and answer some of the things that are top of mind for you. And we can be all over the place. I had a lunch meeting today with some people here at Syracuse, and we got in a big topic of wine. So it was a little off the norm, but whatever you want to talk about is just fine. So before I go into what my career journey is, I'm going to share with you what I believe is the first lesson that I have learned, and that is you got to create your own highlights reel. Don't copy what your friends do. Don't write down what I did and try to copy it. Think about how you want to tell your story 25 years from now when you're back here at Syracuse University and you're sitting in front of a group of people that are about ready to graduate. What do you want to tell them about? And I think it's really important to think about this because when you first start into your career, I think there's a lot of you watch what people do and you get competitive about it. You see somebody that gets a promotion or somebody goes to management or somebody does something. I think the closer they are in your circle, you tend to try to think, well, I should do that, without taking the time to really think about what do you want your highlights reel to look like? And I'll share a couple things with you today that were very unique to me, that I had the opportunity to do. That's part of my highlights reel, and it probably won't be yours, but that's okay. We all are very unique, and we all have our own stories to share. So then I'm going to jump into a little bit about my career journey. And it started right here in upstate New York. You've met my parents now. We're from Lafayette, just south of here. When I was in grade school, my parents don't even know that I have a picture of them in my slides that I share all over the country. But when I think about my career journey, I had some pretty interesting, like, pre-college jobs that I think started to define me. And when I say they gave me a lot of support, let me give you an example, which I shared with a few earlier today. At one point, I have no idea really how this came about, but 5th or 6th grade, I laid down the proposal that I should sell chicken eggs door to door, and convinced my dad that we should raise chickens. It's not like we were in the chicken business or had chickens. We had to go buy chickens. We had to build a chicken coop. Mom helped me wash them, and I sold them door to door. So although I came to school as wanting to be an engineer here at Syracuse, I think there was some sales blood in me way back in my middle school years. I enjoyed in high school a lot of sports, and I was fortunate enough to be offered a scholarship to Syracuse. That's really one of the main core reasons that I came to Syracuse, is to play on the volleyball team. And with that, as I started to think about what I wanted to major in, I'm sure you all went through this. You know, you don't really know what these jobs are, but I did have an uncle that graduated from here, from the chemical engineering school. And I also had a lot of teachers in my high school that said, well, you know, you're good in math, you're good in sciences, you should probably try engineering. So I did. A little bit of where my highlights reel comes in is that because I was on the volleyball team, I couldn't take advantage of the co-op program. I was actually really disappointed in that. I was kind of bummed out my freshman year that all of my peers, and again, it's where you start to feel like you're competing, all of my peers were doing these cool co-ops. And I wasn't able to do a co-op because of the timing of volleyball and the seasons and everything. So I decided to do something really different my sophomore year. I was reading a magazine one night in my dorm room and decided that I was going to apply to an ad and find two people, two I'd never met before, and we were going to ride our bicycles across country from Astoria, Oregon to Virginia Beach in Virginia. We slept out every night. We made all our meals over camp stoves. It was about 4,000 miles. It took us 60 days. And I didn't know this at the time. At the time, I was just trying to do something unique and different with my summer. It turned into be one of the discussion topics of every interview I had. They would ask me about my engineering time. We'd talk about me being a student athlete, and then for sure it would go into, how did the three of you, how did you make decisions? Who was the leader? Did you ever want to quit? How did you get through that? So this doesn't have to be your story, but think about as you go through college, you know, there's more than just, you know, your school or your sports. Think about some of those hobbies and think about some things that make you very unique that you'll be able to pull out later as you're talking to many different employers out there. My first job, when I left Syracuse, my first job was IBM. I had a lot of job offers, and you will too. Engineering is a great place to start. And I remember this story with my dad because I told him that after I came back from Poughkeepsie and I'd done my interviews, I told him there was one place I was not going to work, and that was IBM. And he said, why aren't you going to work at IBM? And I said, oh my God, Dad, it's like they've got row 1 to 112, and then it goes A to Z, and everybody's just sitting in these little offices, and I can't see myself working in a huge company. And I had to eat my humble pie, because 2 weeks later, after I'd thought through it a little bit more, I went to work for IBM. And it's probably one of the best decisions I ever made, because IBM, like a lot of Fortune 500 companies, was big. And when I got in there, and there's lots of parts of my first job I loved. I loved my teammates. We were all new college hires. I loved my manager. Loved my manager. But my day-to-day work was not really what I was expecting it to be. So that wasn't my favorite thing. And I talked to my manager about that. And within my first year, I told him, I don't see myself doing this kind of work long term. And he helped coach me into starting work on an MBA. So the second, one of the things that I did not know when I went off to work is a lot of the bigger companies will actually pay for you to get your MBA while you're working for them. So the brilliance in my first manager was that I stayed working for him 3 more years, doing the job I didn't really like, because he was helping me get an MBA and figure out what I wanted to do next. And then there was a huge downturn. It was the mainframes that I was working on. I was a hardware design, logic design engineer making the mainframes. The mainframe business really dropped off the planet. And in the Mid-Hudson Valley, they were laying off 10,000 people. So those that were early in their career, which was me, there were job fairs to go work other places in IBM. If you were on the retirement side, they were given nice retirement packages. But I decided to take a role leveraging my MBA, move out of direct engineering, and I moved with IBM to Raleigh, North Carolina, and I moved into a product marketing role. And interestingly, it was very, very helpful to have an engineering degree and understand how to communicate and work with engineers as well as work with customers. Because I was that person building the roadmap between the two. I also got to do some fun things like promotions, did a lot of trade shows, did pricing exercises, really learned a lot about marketing. But the next phase of my career, kind of phase 2, was Florida, Raleigh, and Atlanta for different roles that I had. I'm married. This is my husband and my 2 daughters. They're stepdaughters I've known since they were 4 and 5 years old. And one of our family traditions is that we all go still, to this day, I think we're on year 12 maybe, 12 or 13, we all gather at Carolina Beach for 4th of July week. So the South was really the place that I spent the next 15 years between working for different jobs at IBM. I then wanted to get closer into sales, so I went to work for a company that only hires engineers into sales jobs. So the bar was pretty low for my sales skills, but it was high for my technical competence. And it was a company called Analog Devices. It's a much, much smaller company. They were about $1 billion company. And I went to work for them as a sales engineer and starting to learn a lot more about sales. It was a phenomenal company, but I was an office of 1 in Raleigh, North Carolina. And any next job I wanted to do or any growth I wanted to have in that company, they wanted me to move to Boston or to San Jose. And at the time, there's the family. They were all in Raleigh. That was not good timing for me. So I actually followed my husband, who took a new job, to Florida. And that's when I started working for Cisco. And I've been at Cisco the last 16 years, and I've had 5 uniquely different jobs. They were always in the sales function, but it's been, again, a big enough company that you can really do a lot of different things within the company. So six years ago, our 2 girls were about ready to graduate from college. They had jobs of their own. They were moving out. And my husband and I decided to move to Silicon Valley. So for those that may not know Silicon Valley, and you probably do, but Silicon Valley is the home of technology companies. You've got Facebook, you've got Apple, you've got Uber, you've got Twitter, you've got Google, you've got every not every, but a lot of technology companies right there in Silicon Valley. The other interesting part about Silicon Valley is it's Cisco's headquarters. So I was moving to the headquarters location. They have almost 30,000 people on the campus there in San Jose. And it's probably spread across 30 buildings or so out there. 2 years ago, we hosted the SU in the City group that came out. I think it's mostly from information sciences. Is that it? Mostly the information sciences group. But if you ever want to be a part of that program, it sure seemed like they were having a good time in Silicon Valley. So I think The responsibility I have today around sales, we can go into that more if some of you want to know more about sales, but that's what I've been doing is running the West. And on my team, there's salespeople, there's pre-sales engineering people, marketing people, channels people. And most, if they don't have engineering degrees, they're very technically competent. Because in this world of technology, it's disrupting itself constantly. And anything I learned 2 years ago is gone now. I mean, you almost have to constantly be learning. Cisco acquired 3 companies last week. And so, you know, I have all new products to learn and figure out how they fit into the portfolio. So there's something about you get from, I think, going through an engineering program is that just ability to continuously learn. And then just to throw in a few fun things. We have 2 dogs, Seiko and Annie. They are golden retriever Irish setters. Love wine. I put up some silver oak there, but we had a whole conversation earlier today on wineries in Napa and Sonoma. And then a few years ago, really got into golf. I'd played golf kind of on and off, but once we were without kids, we both joined a club and been taking some lessons and really getting into golf. So that's a little bit about the career journey that I have been on. And as you're thinking about questions, if there's anything there that I can add more depth to or go into more, I'd be more than happy to. So I think that probably kind of plays into what I wish I would have known then. When I graduated, I really didn't know what you did with an engineering degree besides be an engineer. I was trying to decide, do I want to be a hardware engineer or a software engineer? And my eyes had never really been open to this world of possibilities with an engineering degree. So I talked about a few things that I've done, but there's consulting, there's teaching, there's people that have strategy and planning, operations backgrounds. There's almost no limit. I mean, you're not going to perform heart surgery, but you know, outside of something where you need a more specialized degree, it's really, you're capable of doing almost anything with the degree that you have. And I say that because I know it's hard, and I know some of you are that sophomore year where it's like, am I going to make it? Should I quit? Should I do it? You're going to be really happy you graduate with an engineering degree. It's something to me as a person that interviews a lot of people today. It tells me a lot about their capacity to learn, their capacity to absorb a lot of things, and it's going to do very well for you. So don't underestimate what's possible with an engineering degree. So the other side of having a very valuable engineering degree and going to work in technology is sometimes you get in this mode of starting to think that, you know, there's something that's always better. And I watched people early in their career just start chasing money, like that being the important thing. Like, I can make more money, so I'm going to switch to this job or that job. Well, the first problem with that is that you start to find out year 5 and year 6 that you need references, you need supporters, you need people that are going to speak really highly about the work that you've done. And if you keep jumping jobs, sometimes, you know, people don't have a lot to provide on your behalf. The other part is there's a psychologist. His name is Dan Pink, and you can look him up on YouTube. He's studied the happiness factor, what truly makes people happy, and money's never in the equation. And I'm not saying money's not important. We all like money, but you know, you certainly want some money. But he has studied this, and really what makes people happy is autonomy. People don't want to be micromanaged. They want to have some autonomy in the work that they do. They want to have some type of mastery. So they want to be able to get good at whatever they like to do. And then they need some type of purpose. So it a little bit comes back to building your highlights reel too. It's thinking about what are those things in you that you really do enjoy. And as I said to the last session, don't overanalyze and get too wound up about your very first job. You're probably not going to stay in your very first job very long. Maybe a year, maybe 3 years. Very few people stay in their first job forever. So get something that you can get started on, and if you don't like it, start to shape it. I didn't like my first job. But there's parts of my first job that I still leverage to this day. And when I have a customer who's having a product issue and I have to go talk to engineers that are building the product, I have a huge appreciation for how hard their job is and what they have to do every day. So I still take it with me, but that wasn't going to be the job for me. So I make a little joke about this because sometimes you think the grass is greener, but check the water bill. You know, that may be higher and it may not be the right thing for you. It matters how you dress. Something, again, I wish I'd learned sooner. And I give you a couple examples here. These are both senior vice presidents at Cisco. Padma Warrior's on the right, Rowan Trollope is on the left. Rowan, you can't see this, but Rowan's not only sporting that shirt with rolled up sleeves, he also has on red Converse sneakers. He's doing a demo at a tech show, and that's a perfectly appropriate way for him to dress. I've seen Rowan in a suit and tie in front of certain customers also. So, you know, he's able to change how he dresses to be in the right audience. I've seen Padma do the same. She's doing a keynote speech there for probably a couple thousand people. But I've seen her dress completely down in certain environments too. One of my customers is Uber. And the sales rep who calls on Uber called me and said, Tami, we're going to see Uber. Please don't wear a jacket and get all dressed up. They're going to laugh at you. And you walk in and they're literally wearing flip-flops, shorts, and t-shirts, which is perfectly fine for their environment. As a salesperson, I always want to be dressed a little bit better than my customer, but you don't want to make them uncomfortable either. So this isn't, there's one way to dress. Don't take that from this message at all. There's plenty of different ways. Just know that it matters, and just know that when you're out there, you are putting off a brand in what you decide to wear, and you should think about it. You should be self-aware about it. You can do something crazy. Just know that you're doing that and be aware of it. My last thing, so I hope that you guys are working on those questions there because we're coming around to it pretty quick. When I went to work for that small company and I said I was an office of one in Raleigh, North Carolina, I was working for Analog Devices, I thought I had hit the jackpot. I didn't have a boss. My boss was in Seattle. They bought me furniture to make a home office. I didn't have to go to an office. And about 6 to 9 months in, I realized I was getting no benefit from anybody I worked with. I was not building any support network or making any connections. I was actually spending so much time trying to set up with lunches with people so that I could stay connected even in the community and with my customers. Where I work today at Cisco, I'm wide open to letting my teams work in home offices. When I say it's a trap, don't get stuck there. Take advantage, especially if you're starting new into the workforce. If it's a productivity, if it doesn't make sense for you to drive in 2 hours of traffic and you can get more work done, work distributed. Work in Starbucks, work in your office, work where you need to work. But don't forget there's a lot to be gained by listening to people around you that have a lot of experience and be able to ask the people around you, questions. For the people around you to get to know that you actually do have a pretty good work ethic, that you're in the office and you are calling on customers or whatever your job may be. I had a new hire out of our college program that came in and he really kept asking me how he could be successful. And I said, well, Richie, if I was you, I'd pick out the best person out there in the bullpen, the top salesperson out there. And I said, I'd get there before them and I'd leave after them and learn everything that they're doing. That's exactly what he did. And he just was a sponge to figuring that out. So I think there's, the workplace has changed so much. When I worked at IBM, I literally punched in and I punched out. And I made sure I had worked the 8.5 hours or whatever work time I was supposed to do. That's gone. And so it's a little bit left to all of you to decide what you want to do. And that's why I call it a little bit of a trap when you start your career. Really think about how you best use your time and how you benefit from all those people in that workplace that know so much more than you do at the time. And how do you take advantage of it? So I gave you a little bit on some lessons from greener grass to the home office trap, to how you dress, to making your own highlights reel. Told you a little bit about my career journey. And again, it's mine. It's not going to be yours. But now I'm really most interested, and probably the most beneficial part about this is to get your questions. So you want to pass them. It's like church. Let's go this way. And I'll stop in, I'll grab them. No questions in the back row? Questions? Questions? No? No? You don't have to put your name on it. Thank you. No questions here? No? This one? This question? Is there more questions or just notes? Questions? Oh my God, these are long, complicated questions. This one has a drawing of a Cisco router on it. I'm not kidding. More? More? Did I give it? Thank you. Oh, he's got one? He's still writing. Oh, Lord. I'm going to need my glasses here. 1 second. And if anybody thinks of something while we're going through these, you're still welcome to shout out questions. We should have a good amount of time here. Good. Got 30 minutes. You've been in a lot of states. How many countries did you visit? Do you believe traveling is an important part of your life? Okay, so I've traveled both for work and for fun. For fun, I've spent a lot of time in Europe. For probably Europe and Canada. For work, I had a global job. And I spent my time in Tokyo, a little bit in Europe, Singapore, and then back in the States. So if you're in technology, pretty common to go to China. I've not been to China, so a little factoid for you. Do I believe it's an important part of your life? I love to travel. I also believe that the U.S. is a great place to travel. I mean, there's a lot of things that I still haven't seen in the U.S. So I think it depends on what your background is and how much you've been able to travel on that one. But I did enjoy getting the work experience and seeing different cultures. The Japanese culture is completely different than Europe, than the U.S. Getting to understand some of those business characteristics. Cisco certifications could lead me to high positions like yours, or high positions. What kind? I would tell you in the networking industry, and I'm just going to speak, there's a lot of industries out there, but in the networking industry, I would say that Cisco probably has the most known certification program. For those of you that know the CCNA, the CCDA, and the CCIE is the ultimate certification. It's a lot of knowledge that you have to share in both a test, like a written test, and you also have to do almost a full day lab where you have to problem solve on Cisco equipment. The CCIE certification is now broken into, there's a security one, there's a data center one, there's an enterprise networking one, and maybe one more I'm forgetting. What is it? WAN?
Wireless. WAN.
Oh, wireless, thank you. But I would tell you they're very well recognized certifications. You say, will it give me a higher paying job? Or I don't know what you're comparing that to. I'd say coming out of school, it would be really good. And it's certainly a known certification in the industry. If anybody wants to add any clarifying pieces on that. Usually the majority of IT people are not good in business and management. How to come up with that? How to change that? I think is what he's saying, how to change that. So I would say that was probably true 10 years ago. IT was delegated to the basement, but I will tell you today that IT is in the boardroom. And there is not a company out there that is not figuring out how to marry their business strategy with their technology strategy. And I think one of the One of the latest examples that I can think of off the top of my head is Starbucks. You know, they're a brick and mortar, walk in here and order your cup of coffee. And what they learned was they were losing patrons. People were leaving the store because the lines were too long. And if you look what they've done with technology on a mobile app to be able to get your orders ready ahead of time, whether you go through the drive-thru or you walk in, that's all leveraging technology to change their complete business strategy. So I think that that the IT, the function of IT, if they're the right IT people that can speak the business language and can marry the two together, extremely, extremely valuable. I'll tell you, in my set of my customers that I work with, it's probably bifurcated 50-50, whether they kind of delegate themselves only to IT function or they actually elevate themselves and have a seat at the table with the business people. But it's there's a lot of disruption happening in the industry right now, and it's all around people leveraging technology to really take you to the next level. We talk at Cisco about companies that are using technology to enable their strategy. That's pretty kind of traditional. And then there's those that are differentiating it. That's kind of like the Starbucks example I gave you. And then the third category is people who completely define their business strategy by technology. Think of like an Uber. I mean, Uber exists because they started with technology and came up with a new business model. Airbnb, that's a new business model driven off of applications and technology. So I think that there's a huge opportunity for that particular field. Oh, that was that one. As you excelled through your career, were you able to maintain a steady work-life balance? Somebody asked me this one earlier. I've gone away from the thought of work-life balance in more of a priority scheme. So I think that the first thing, and my 6th grade health teacher told me this, and for some reason I remembered it, and she's very, very right on this one. You absolutely have to take care of yourself first. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. So number one is you. That means exercise, that means eating right, that's, mentally taking breaks when you need to take breaks. So you're number one. Number two is your family. And your family can be defined, sometimes that's blood relatives, sometimes that's an extended family or a support group. But whatever your inner circle of family is, that has to be your number two. And I think when number one and number two are functioning and healthy, then the work part comes naturally. At different phases in my career, I had different limitations. When our children were younger, there wasn't as much travel as I wanted to do. We did want to be at soccer games and did want to do things. Right now, our girls are gone. It's just the two of us. I'm pretty unlimited in what I want to do for work, as long as I keep the other two in balance. So I think over your career, you'll go in and out of that. I have found there's a lot of the early in career that have joined my team are very over-rotated on work. Too much so. I've half joked with them, but they need to get some hobbies. I mean, you can't just be one-dimensional. People don't want to just talk to you about work. So I would caution that as you start, because you don't have kids, you don't have a family, you may not be dating somebody. You got a lot of time on your hands. But I would say don't just over-rotate and only work. Keep a good balance to that piece of it. Ooh, somebody's writing really small. What happened with your electrical engineering degree and bioengineering degree? What happened to it? I think I still have it. Does somebody know something I don't know? Is anybody comfortable clarifying, or want me to take a guess here? I'm thinking maybe it was meant like I didn't work in the biomedical field. Maybe that's where it's going. I actually tried to. I went and interviewed, 20 years ago, that field was pretty small. I mean, Syracuse was on the bleeding edge with even having a program. And I went to interview with a couple companies, and they didn't have any type of training or development or new hire program. So they all told me to work for a bigger company, kind of cut my teeth in hardware or software engineering and then come back to them in 3 to 5 years. So I really, really thought thought that was an interesting space to be in. It's just I took a right turn and did the electrical engineering thing and then ended up going off in a different direction. But for all of you that are getting bio or electrical engineering degrees, a very interesting field. And I talked to some of you that were mechanical too. That's another very good one. Okay, I have to show this one. Like, somebody drew a perfect Cisco switch. Like fully diagrammed with a Cisco logo on it. How Cisco decides pricing for a hardware device. How sales operates with engineers in Cisco. Do salespeople participate in process of development? Salesperson, engineer. Okay, I think I understand that one. And maybe that is a little bit confusing because I mentioned that we have engineers. We have engineers that truly spend their time building product and coming up with the next generation of operating system that will run the internet. The next set of software code that will save us from a cyber security attack. There is a third of our company that just lives and breathes in that product development. We do a ton of acquisitions, so taking those acquisitions and figuring out how to merge them together with existing products. So that's more of a traditional, that's where I started in hardware engineering. And even when I did product marketing, I was in the engineering group. When I talk about engineers and sales, we have what are called pre-sales engineers. What a pre-sales engineer would do is work with the customer to understand what type of problems they were. Let's say this customer wants to replace their communication system. A pre-sales engineer would architect what that would look like. So they'd make little pictures like this, little boxes, and they would show in a architecture or diagram what the customer's network should look like, maybe not tomorrow, but maybe 3 years in the future, and give them this future state that the customer can work towards. And then, put on top of that all the different applications that they're running, security concerns, everything else that you might address. So our pre-sales engineers are a very, very integral part of our sales process, but it's a very different type of engineer. The pre-sales engineers are with customers all the time. The people that work in engineering, they do interface to customers, but much less frequently. They're more trying to build the next great device for Cisco. One of the programs, I think I mentioned the Cisco Sales Associate program, but there's a college hire program that we have, like many large technology companies, where you can apply. There's an interview process. You would come into Cisco and go through 3 to 6 months of training before you decided, do I want to be sales? Do I want to be a pre-sales engineer? Then we put you in an inside sales group where you start to support customers. And once you're comfortable and we feel you're ready, you can apply for jobs out in the field, like to come out to my team. And there's a large portion, probably 20, 30% of my team comes through that particular program. So it's a really good one. I hope that's a really good drawing. Is an MBA essential to people who want to run a company or to involve in management? No, not at all. And I learned a ton getting my MBA. At the point in my life, I had never taken an accounting class. I didn't know anything about HR policies. I didn't know about business. I didn't know about supply chain and manufacturing. My MBA was perfect at that point in time in my career to learn a lot. I don't think it ever got me a job. I think every job I ever got was based on the work experience that I had. Now within Cisco, even when I said I want to go to product marketing, I got this MBA, I think they'd have let me go to product marketing without an MBA. I don't think the MBA was the thing they said, oh, you went and got an MBA, we'll put you in product marketing. I think I'd done a really good job as a hardware engineer, and they were willing to take a risk and let me do something different. So it's up to you. I think sometimes if you've worked 10 or 15 years, maybe it doesn't make sense at that point. Maybe early in your career, if you haven't had any exposure, like I hadn't had no exposure, it may be perfect for you. But I haven't heard a lot of people I've talked to ever say, I got my MBA, that got me this job. You still got to get work experience. You still got to get out there and understand how to add value in a company so that they will pay you money to do what you do. And sometimes just studying it and learning about it is not enough. You got to get out there and do it. So that one's kind of left up to you. I know it's not a good answer. I get asked that one a lot. It's like the CCIE. Some people ask me, do I need my CCIE to work at Cisco to be a pre-sales engineer? And you don't. You don't need it. I have pre-sales engineers that are phenomenal that don't have their CCIE. But there's no downside to having a CCIE. It's like there's no downside to having an MBA. I mean, if you have time to do it and you find it enjoyable, especially if you can work for a company that's willing to pay for it and give you that type of exposure and experience, yeah, I would do it. I know it's hot in here. I'll keep rolling here. Have you been impacted negatively or positively by being a woman in a male-dominated field? Boy, brave people here. Good one. We talked about this a little bit in the lunch session. I think there's two sides to that. I think that, there's a part of, you stand out and people remember you. And when you're in an engineering field and you're a woman, there's lots of women in here, which is great to see. But sometimes, you're remembered. That's good if, you're self-aware and you dress appropriately and you're careful about what you say. But, again, everybody can be watching you. We talked at lunch about some of the programs Cisco has. We have a program called Cisco's Empowered Women's Network. And I would tell you, and I would ask every man in this room, every male in this room, to get involved in a program like that, because you probably have sisters, you'll someday have daughters, and it's an important thing that we have equal male and female participation to make sure everybody, regardless of, any type of diversity that we have, whether it's male, female, ethnic, age, that everybody has a fair opportunity to move up and do what they want to do in the company. I coach we have a lot of executives at Cisco that are women, and I do coach a lot of women on a number of different things. If they want to get into management, when to raise their hand, how to get ready. But I do it for men too. I'm probably equally involved with men that are trying to improve and build their career. So it's a huge part of who Cisco is. It's probably something that you want to check in as you're interviewing and talking to the companies that you're talking to, just to make sure that they have as much behind it. It's as important to them as it should be to all of us. If anybody has more questions on these, just holler it out. How did you connect so well with your boss? Oh, at IBM. I like that question because I've had a lot of good bosses. I've had a lot of bad bosses too. But when I went in to tell him that I didn't like what I did, I really thought he was going to fire me. I really thought that, if you don't like what you do, that's your problem. And so I'd kind of gone in that day mentally thinking, well, he's going to say too bad. And instead he said to me, well, what do you want to do? And I just sat there looking at him because I was so convinced he was just going to tell me that, well, then go find a new job. I didn't even have an answer for what do you want to do. And I think you're going to find a lot in the workforce that people really do want to help you. And it's a little bit about how good are the questions you ask people. Because a better question for me than just saying, I don't like what I do, would have been, what other things? With this work experience, what are some of the other things I could possibly do? But he took it in stride, and he started talking to me about getting some other experience, maybe taking an accounting class. And so I knew that he valued me, he was looking out for me, and it just made a great connection. I've seen him I saw him 10 or 15 years later, and I told him when I saw him, I said, you were the best boss I ever had. And he was a young manager. He was probably only 4 or 5 years older than I was, but he definitely was there to make sure that I found what I wanted to do. Oh, this is a 3-part question. How did your journey at Cisco take you to the vice president of your department? When you say Uber is your customer, what does that mean you do for them? That's a good one. How necessary do you think your engineering degree was to get where you are? I'll do them in reverse order. I think my engineering degree gave me a lot of confidence because I knew that not everybody could get through an engineering program any place. So I do think as I started out, it was a real strong confidence builder, as well as it's very, very attractive to almost every employer, even if you don't go into an engineering field. So I think I've said that a couple different times. I think you guys are in a very good spot. When I say Uber is my customer, so Uber, does everybody know what Uber is? Everybody knows Uber. Okay, so Uber's an application, and that application gets hosted in a data center. And when they have to build out that data center, it takes a lot of technology that application rides on. My team would engage Uber to understand that application and figure out space requirements, power, cooling, the servers, the switches, the cabling, everything that went in to building out the infrastructure that application would ride on. And then we would sell that to them. One of our channel partners would actually implement that for them. So that's what I mean as in technology sales, what you would do with a customer. How did your journey at Cisco have vice president of your department? You know, people ask me for career advice a lot of times. They always want to know what things should I be doing to get promoted. And sometimes I find the one thing people miss is you should do the job you have really well. And even if it's not your favorite job, if you do your job really well, it's remarkable how many people are willing to help you get your next job or find your next thing. So, you know, some people think, well, I gotta have 5 people in my support network, or I gotta have this board of supporters, or I gotta do this mentoring and shadowing. Those are all good. And at some points, I would recommend those things. But I would also be very conscious of the work that you do, and not just for your boss. It's a lot about your peer group. Does your peer group really see you as a valuable asset to that team? Because it's your peer group that's going to go off and go on to other companies and either want to hire you or recommend you or not. So I think that's one of the things that I was always focused on. I think the second thing is I'm very curious. So I was always curious about what other people did and how we could work together or I could help them. So I did, when I worked in the Atlanta office, I can't tell you how many times I'd ride up on the elevator and I'd ask somebody, I haven't seen you before, what do you do? And they start telling me why they were in the office or what they were doing, and I'd have a new connection and somehow we'd start working together. So I think the more that you can build out those, not just friendships, but business working relationships, so a lot of people know you and know what you do, it just opens up doors as you go through your career. How many years did it take to get an MBA while working? 3.5 to 4. I mostly did 1 course until the final year, then I doubled up and did 2 courses per semester. Are you satisfied with your accomplishment? Very introspective group. I feel like I've had a lot of fun. You know, I like what I do. I get a lot of energy from people. I've always been a competitor. Sales has a competitive nature in it. When we go to design that data center for Uber, there's another technology company that wants to do it better than us, faster than us, cheaper than us. So there's always a competitive part to sales where you still have to win and earn the customer's business. And it really started here with an engineering degree, my love of technology. So if you look at what I get to do today, it really brings together the technology with the compete to win, with my love of people and leadership. And I spend a lot of time on leadership development in my current role. The program I told you about, the early in career program where we hire out of college, I spend a lot of time with those individuals, making sure that they make a graceful entrance into Cisco. So I enjoy it. I guess everybody has their own judge on that question, but I enjoy what I do. Oh, we covered that one. What are the priorities does Cisco have for less? Oh, what type of programs does Cisco have for less developed countries to assist in internet penetration? I'm not a good person to answer that question because I'm not intimately involved, but we do have a lot of programs that we're running in a lot of the emerging markets to bring internet access to some of these underdeveloped areas. So whoever asked me that, if you want to give me a card or an email later, I'll connect you with a little bit more on what Cisco's doing. How much of your daily habits contributed to your success? What does an average day, if such thing exists, look like? Any habits you would recommend? I would say if I had to think about an average week, I would probably break it down into 4 parts. One part would be spending time out actually with customers and with partners and talking to them, making sure that my field teams are delivering on our promise to add value to those customers. I'd say probably another 25% of it is just kind of running the business. So we do a lot of analytics on our sales. What's driving sales, what's working, what's not working. I do a lot of quarterly business reviews with my sales managers for them to share with me what they're seeing. I'd say probably 25% on leadership development. I have 60 first-line managers that work for me. I spend a lot of time making sure they have development plans and that they're progressing in their career. And then the last piece I'd say is continuous learning. Staying up on the technology, me, myself, being able to articulate where Cisco's going, our vision, some of the acquisitions that we're doing, what we're doing in the security space. So that's a full-time job right there to stay up on that. But I have a lot of really smart technical people on my team that help me stay up on that. Which kind of job do we need most right after graduation? I'd say a job. A job in a big company or small company, a job specifically related to your major or not. So I'll give you the big company, small company story from the eyes of my second daughter, who went to work for Network Appliance, NetApp. Does anybody know NetApp? In the technology field, much like a little smaller than Cisco. I think they're about a $4 billion company. And she worked there for a year, and for the last 6 months of that year, I had to hear every single day how miserable working for a big company was. And she hated this, and she hated that, and why do they do it like this, and they don't give me enough work. And I said, Allison, you should probably try working for a small company. And she did. And she went to a company that was 12 people. And a woman had started it. They were doing a lot of technical marketing for technology companies. And she worked there about a year, and she said, I have no career opportunity at this company, Tami. And they're not going to promote me because there's no place to be promoted to. And so now she's kind of found her spot, right? She's kind of in the middle spot that works for her. She doesn't feel lost in a big company. She doesn't have a teeny tiny company, but she's found her spot. My other daughter is 1 year older. She works at Cisco. And she came into Cisco in the customer service group. And she was fretting about, should I go into you're in sales, Tami? Should I do sales? What should I do? And they offered her a job in customer service. And it's been fantastic, because in customer service, believe it or not, she gets to view all different aspects of the company. And she's getting a lot of great experience. She's been in that 3 years, and she's actually looking to do something different right now. So there's not a one-size-fits-all on that one. I think you got to try a couple things. I did IBM, which was the gigundo company. There were 400,000 people when I worked for them. Then I went to a company that was pretty small, but I kind of fell into that. I went and lived in Raleigh, and there's one job in Raleigh, and I have it. So, I mean, after 5 years, it's what are you going to do? The last part was something about should I do my degree, your degree or not? I think that's a personal choice. I mean, like I said, get started in something. It doesn't have to be your favorite job. It doesn't have to be your forever job. Get started in something and then start to iterate and tweak and find, your path on what you do. Because, you guys, you'll have friends. You'll all meet people when you start your jobs. You'll be hearing a lot about what's going on out there and find new places that you want to work. Oh, I'm a computer. This is a great one to end on. I'm a computer engineer. How do I get a job at Cisco? I love that one. I will leave Amy and the team here with some links on our website. The program that I spoke of is called CSAP, Cisco Sales Associates Program. Look into the cycle of when they start interviewing. We also do some internships. Check on there for the internship programs. I don't know what we have here local. I know I have several in San Jose, but I would love you all to come work at Cisco. I've had a wonderful career there. I think it's a great company, It's not the only technology company. There's lots of good technology companies out there. And you may go completely different. You may do technology at a non-technology company. That's perfectly fine too. So you'll find your way, and there's a lot of fun things out there for you. But I just want to one more time tell you that this is a really unique program, that you get to kind of flash forward and think about what would my story look like. So thank you for Syracuse and everybody who put this on. I would also tell you that if I were to do it over again, I would get an engineering degree. I wouldn't do anything different. I would absolutely start there. There's no downside to that whatsoever. So stick that out, get out there, get a job, and then just start figuring out, where you want to go next. And I think there's a reception or something following this.
I'll give the details.
If anybody is half as hot as me right now, they are ready to go to that reception.
Quite the spotlight that you So I hope you guys will join me in thanking Tami for her excellent presentation and words of wisdom.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
And on behalf of the college, we just have a little token of our appreciation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you coming and sharing all of your advice and experience with us.
Thank you.
You are all invited to join us in the Student Study Lounge in 110 Link for a reception, and Tami will be available to answer more questions that you might have, if you could possibly have any left after that. So,
that was fun. That was fun. Thank you.
thank you all.